All right. All right. Let's try to do this right this time. All right, what I did is I actually recorded this video already, so this is my second take. So hopefully I just do better, right? But what I forgot to do is turn on archiving of my video, so I lost the video. So I can do it again, that's fine though. All right, so first thing we're gonna cover is the difference between dirty contracts, clean contracts, and what I consider trap contracts. And you know what I'm saying, you would take my philosophy, and if you apply to it, your determination might come out different, but you'll understand what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna show you the difference between a trap contract, a clean contract, and a dirty contract. A trap contract is a contract where a player might be a great player, but even if you want to move him to make other pieces and stuff the other way, just because it's contract, you can't get out. But he's a good player. He's a good asset for your team, right? A dirty contract is a player that has a big contract also, but he's not necessarily a good player. Or he won't necessarily sustain being a good player, but his contract will cover a distance longer than him being productive. All right, I'm gonna show you an example of each one. Then the clean contract can apply to any player, a good player, a bad player, whatever. As long as you feel like currently he's a good asset, and when you want to get rid of him, you can without keeping your hands clean. So I'm gonna show you an example of each one. All right. So I'm gonna go to my team first. Oops, that's the wrong thing. Let me back up out of here. We want to go. You want to go into my team, and you want to go to salaries. All right. And then if you see Mac right here, he's a clean contract because you see what happens in this bonus area. Actually, Mac is not a clean contract. All right. A clean contract for me would be Demaryius Thomas, right? And even though you guys see this here, he traded for another team, so those fees aren't for me. Who we have here? All right. So after year 17, he would be a good contract, whatever. All right. My point is, if you can get a player that you sign who is who's a player you pay, and you can get out the contract pretty easily, right? That's what you would consider a good contract. Actually, I finally thought about one. All right, David Bruton on my team is what you call a clean contract. All right, I gave him a little bit of money, but I'm willing to part ways with that if I had to cut him, right? And that wouldn't hurt my bank, right? So that's what you would consider a clean contract, or a contract where you don't end up paying any money at all. So maybe you might want to, the way you want to set up a clean contract is maybe, say they want $3 million, you want to give them $6 or $7 million for 1 year. Yeah, you might overpay them, but but you give them $6 or $7 in the salary, but you make sure you don't give me the bonus, and by giving them the extra money, they come over. So you want to use those type of contracts in a situation. Say you got a guy you want to draft in the 3rd round. He's gonna be a developmental type player. He won't be ready his first year, but in year 2 or 3 he will. So you can go get you a nice veteran out of free agency, and that's the only time I suggest going to free agency. If you go to free agency, you want to address a position, but you can't address it in the draft and get a staple or bell count right then and there. But you got a guy you might like that you scouted, but he's a 1 or 2 year project. That's when you go get a free agent. You get you a safe contract, and you'll go ahead and develop that guy behind him when it's ready. Cut that guy, cut ties. Thank you for your services. Go on about your life. All right, I want to go into a different screen to show you the full breakdown of contracts, at least how I go about doing it. So what I do is I normally go in here to my roster. We're going to use the Broncos because that's the that's the team that asked me. So we're going to go to C.J. Anderson, which is one of the contracts he asked me, right? What happens is he wants to get rid of C.J. Anderson, not for anything good or bad. It just doesn't fit what he wants to do. So what you want to do is you want to go here to where you see contracts and skills. And what this does for you, if you can see right there, you see contracts and then breakdown. The breakdown lets you know what's going to happen or how much you'll owe going forward. And what kind of gets tricky is you'll go to cut somebody. You go say you want to cut him. It'll say cap hit $3.5 million. You might be like, you know what, I can deal with that. But what it won't tell you is then when you go to the next year, your cap penalty will be in 2016. Your hit will be, that. But then 2017, look, you see it goes up to 4.2 million, and then so on and so on down the list until you get to 2020, where it's all the way up to $8 million that year, and that's going to come off your cap, right? That's going to hit you, and you're going to owe that no matter what, right? Well, obviously don't, you obviously don't want that to happen. So what you want to do is maybe find a spot for him within the team or deal with that. All right. Another guy he has on his team, which is TJ Ward, which is kind of the same thing. So we're gonna go back up to the Broncos, and CJ Anderson is what I would consider a dirty contract. And the reason he's a dirty contract because even though he might be a good player now, by the time that contract, as long as it is over, he's not going to be a productive player no more. You can, he's just not. TJ Ward is what I consider something different because he's in a strong safety position. So as he loses speed and gets older, which he will do within his contract he has, because he's 29 already, decent player now, but his contract is for the next 2 years, and in 2 more years he'll be 31. The odds of him being productive is slim. So he's kind of like he's kind of what I would consider a dirty / trap contract, because if you cut him, you'll get a little bit of money back, but it's not enough to where it's worth cutting him. He's more of an asset in your team than the $1 million or so you will clear, you know what I'm saying, for that year. So you want to keep him on your team. So say you want to go ahead and address that position and have TJ Ward, but he's not your starter anymore. He's great to put on your special teams. You want to put him as your backup. You get in the red zone, you can put him and utilize him that way. Let him come down on special teams. He's going to make tackles and stuff like that. How many times have you had a guy run, get a last-minute kick return or a big kick return? Having this kind of guy on your special teams, and this goes for your linebacker stuff like that. As you get guys that are older, maybe a little slower, but they're still really, really smart, high play recognition, high stuff like that. Put those guys on your, benching, but yet they're going to start on your special teams because they are benched. So that's how you want to utilize those guys that you want to cut, but you're not going to get what you want for them because of their age. We got another guy he asked me about, Calvin Johnson. So we're going to go over here to the Lions. Calvin Johnson is a weird one. There's 2 things you can do with this guy. He's a trap contract, right? So the reason I call him a trap contract versus a dirty contract is as he gets older, we know Calvin Johnson is going to be lose speed and stuff like that. But the thing you can do with Calvin Johnson that you can't do with none of these other guys, I mean, his contract is what you call a trap contract. You're not going to get what he's worth in a trade because people are going to be able to use your Demaryius Thomases, your Julio Jones, and that's the type of guys that he be in, and then the people that people willing to trade for him, your Randall Cobbs, those type of guys. Not saying the guy would give up Randall Cobb for him. I'm just using those guys as an example. That next tier down, you're almost insulted, so it's almost better to keep. And then if you did trade him, say you did find somebody to trade, you bump into the problem with his contract. And the problem with his contract is, look how much you got to pay back per year. You got to pay him guaranteed per year. 14.5, 14.5, 14.5, 26, almost 26.5 million, right? So what you want to do with somebody like him is go ahead and keep him. Go ahead and keep him would be my suggestion. Move him to slot as he gets slower, work the middle with him. Or B, you can find another team. So let's see if we can find another team that might have a guy that kind of falls in the same category. Not saying that you want to trade for him, right? But we're going to use, Antonio Gates. He's an older guy. Let's go to the, let's see if he's still, hopefully he didn't retire this year. So then you go to tight end, right? So you want a tight end. Oh, he's gone, so that doesn't work. But we use their quarterback, Philip Rivers, right? Just for example, you would never trade a wide receiver for a tight end. But we're just going to use him for example. Say he's getting old and dude wants to get away from Philip Rivers, right? Well, Philip Rivers is going to have a pretty fat contract, if I remember correctly, right? So let me see. So now you got it. All right, there we go. That's a perfect contract. So you see their contracts look similar, right? And like, once again, I want to reiterate, I'm not saying Philip Rivers is a good trade for him, but I'm just saying, a contract that looks very similar. What you want to do is, like, he might think that's a dirty player for himself, but you might want that position and vice versa. So that's how you would utilize somebody like Calvin Johnson. You got to find somebody else who will end up with a dirty contract around the same length. So even though you guys are both be in cap trouble, the time that you're in cap trouble is really like just having them on a roster anyway. So you don't know, it wouldn't affect it no different than if they was already on your team. And that's how you trade somebody like Calvin Johnson, who I consider a trap contract, dirty contract, whatever. That's how you want to utilize that. All right. So then a clean contract, I think we already covered that. Now, how do I go about making these things happen? The biggest thing you want to make sure you do is don't get trapped in how much you want a player, right? So you don't want to get trapped into the point where, like, I really want him, I really want him, I really want him. At the end of the year, you need to sign no more than 2 to 3 of your players that are big guys. All your cheap guys, go ahead and bring those back. Bring back your role players. Your role players is your biggest part. 9 times out of 10, your plays are going to be made by your role players, man. Your big players aren't making all the plays. Sign your role players. The big guys, even if, you know what I'm saying, you have guys that you're going to develop, they're going to get really, really good, and guess what? They're going to come up for a contract, right? Sign no more than 1 or 2 of those guys, and never sign no more than 1 or 2 people in free agency. Build through the draft, and build through bargains in the free agency. That's it. Be willing to let people go. Trade and sign who you need, not who you want, all right? Now, something I want to go back to the Broncos. We was looking at the C.J. Anderson thing. So obviously you're going, you know, this goes into the dirty contract. This dirty contract where you just can't get out of it. He's stuck there. If you're cutting, you're really just hurting yourself. You're just hurting your team. You're not getting no money back. You're losing money. You're not going to get nothing out of him. Nobody's going to trade for him because of his contract, right? So what you want to do is I can show you how to utilize one of those guys. It's going to take for me to back out the league to do that. Oh, actually, you know what? Before I do that, I forgot to cover the Bears, I believe. And the Bears, I forgot. Bears, you have a really bad contract with Jay Cutler, but sometimes what happens is sometimes people look at the money and let that determine if they start a player or not. Jay Cutler is I want to be nice. He's not your ideal starting quarterback, right? And he has an injury problem too that you should worry about. Don't worry about that. As the league advances to the next year, he should come off the injury and he'll be utilizable. So, but you can't use him. You know, you're not comfortable with him. He's got a big arm and stuff, but he's getting older. So by the time you're developing, he's digressing quicker than you can develop him, right? So he's not a great starter, but guess what he is? He's a great backup. So the way I would approach this roster, you already got a good running back. You got good young receivers. You got some young people in defense. My first pick would be a quarterback. Set that quarterback position up. Get you a nice quarterback. Now you got a great starting quarterback. Guess what? You got some young weapons. Matt Forte. You got Bennett to pass to. You got Alshon Jeffries to utilize. You got this quarterback. Now you're confident. Your offense, you automatically, by upgrading the quarterback, you upgrade this whole offense. And so you bypass trying to work around Jay Cutler. Now, if you get hurt, you already know how to use Jay Cutler. You already know how to work within the offense with him. And he becomes a backup. So he goes from being a less than average starter to probably the league's best backup. So that's how I would address the Jay Cutler. Now I'm gonna go ahead and back out. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna back out. I'm gonna show the Broncos. The Broncos has a problem with the fact that he has C.J. Anderson and he can't move in the fullback. He can't move him. He feels trapped with the player. So I'm gonna go in here to this practice. And I'm gonna show you how you can utilize C.J. Anderson. So you gotta realize if C.J. Anderson gets you about 4 or 5 touchdowns a year, he's an asset. He's worth having on the roster. I'm gonna show you how to do that. And I actually believe you're running Ronnie Hillman, so I'm gonna try to put a decent defense out there, right? Not that it's gonna matter. We use the Vikings, right? So we want to go to advanced settings. Gary Kubiak's offense, Gary Kubiak's defense, right? But the way I would use him is I would use him in what I like to do is the running back and fullback combination. So what you want to do is you want to go to, it's called dual running back swap, right? And by doing the dual running back swap, now when somebody comes out and sees you, you're going to see when it comes out, they're going to see 2 running backs, normally 1 tight end, 1 or 2 receivers, 3 receivers even. And then now they got to come out there and be like, wow, this is possibly a 5 wide out. This is possibly something where I need to have more DBs out there. So you're going to get, now you're tricking the defense. You're not tricking the defense. You're making your opponent come out and put the person out there. So he's going to have to go with a safety or something instead of an extra linebacker or an extra cornerback out there instead of a safety. They can give you a look that you would like. So what I want to go to is you got your iPro. This is in your formation. And there's a couple other formations. You see your packages. You want to switch. Dual fullback swap. I hit left one time and right up. You'll see that I got C.J. Anderson at fullback, Ronnie Hillman. A great play I like to run out of it is you can run the fullback dive. And then also you can run the fake toss out of this. There's all kinds you can do. You'll set that up. So say you hit them with the fullback dive, you can set them with the fake toss later. As soon as they see it, they might crash middle, run to the middle, pitch it out to the running back. That's a great combination. You can come off and hit the sweep, screen to the running back, to your Ronnie Hillman. There's a lot of things you can do off of this. You can have a couple running backs come out the backfield. So instead of having your fullbacks that normally can't catch, you got a good, receiver out the backfield. But I'm gonna show you the purpose. So we're going to come out with the fullback dive. Over here, we're going to pick random defense, right? So you see we got the look here. First time, we're going to go ahead and run up in here. Boom. You got C.J. Anderson. If you're on a 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, you can punch it in there, read the defense. But if I want to come out here and switch to my ISO, maybe move this here. Move Daniels on this side to the weak side. You know, now I can get my running back in here. And obviously, that wasn't the greatest look. But you should get the gist of what I'm saying. Let me see what else we can do with this. We can, this will allow us to switch to a couple other formations. So then now you got another look here. We can run an inside zone, run it to the strong side here. It looked like they were in a man maybe. They are in the zone. So we're going to motion him back across the defense. Now, make sure, you know, since this is league play, make sure he sets. Give the thing with time after you do any kind of motions. Make sure if you do any kind of motions, let them have time to set their defense. That way you don't get yourself in any kind of trouble, okay? You want to hike the ball. Now you can get out here and make a zone read and get outside. So hopefully that was beneficial to you guys. Hopefully I answered all your questions. If you do have any more questions, please inbox me. If you're watching this on YouTube, follow me, inbox me on YouTube, and I'll make sure I check you out. Any other, you know, any other platform I decide to put this on, hey man, please follow me. This is your boy EJ from EJ's Cash Sports and MyMaddenLife.com, and I look forward to gaming with you going forward.